that if you really want to find work that you love in the world, work that really inspires you, fulfills you, that you should pay attention to the kinds of things you liked to do when you were a child. When I was a child, I loved to entertain. I would line my stuffed animals and my dolls up on my bed, and I would put on little shows. I would talk, I would dance, I would sing, I would entertain them. I was an only child, so this was pretty easy to do. I didn't have to fight a brother or sister for, room floor space, so I just held forth. And I did love to play with my friends, too, especially my friend Paula, who lived across the street from my grandmother in the little Pennsylvania town where we were growing up. And every Saturday, Paula would come over to my grandmother's, and we would play dolls. We were growing up in the 60s, so we had 60s baby dolls. They were plastic, they were hollow, and to sort of increase the reality of what you were doing, taking care of this baby doll, there was a little hole in the baby's mouth. And you had a little bottle that you filled with water, so you could actually feed your baby doll after you tested the temperature of the water on your wrist. We loved doing that. That was our favorite part. Oh, we didn't know what we were doing, but we always tested it. That's about right. Feed our baby doll. And then the baby doll had a hole right about here, so you got both ends of the spectrum. You had to feed your baby doll, you had to change your baby doll. It was, welcome to real life. But we had no time for this nonsense, feeding and changing baby dolls. We didn't want to do that. We liked playing doll hospital, which we would do in my grandmother's cellar. My grandmother had this long wooden staircase that went down really steep, all the way down to the cement floor. So either Paula or I would stand at the top of the stairs, baby doll in hand, and we did not throw the baby doll down the stairs. We weren't monsters, but if you stood it up on its hind legs, they couldn't really balance very well on their own. So if you stood the baby doll up at the top of the stairs and let go its hands, boopity, 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 boom, boom! Then the person down on the cellar floor got to be the ambulance. Come scoop up the baby doll and take it off to the hospital, which was my grandmother's freezer over against the wall. That was all set up to be the ward. We'd take the baby doll over to the hospital, and then we would diagnose it using these medical textbooks that my grandmother had in her basement. Somebody in my family must have gone to med school like in 1910, because there were these ancient textbooks. Our favorite one was called Diseases of the Body. It had everything that can possibly go wrong to the human body in these beautiful copper plate kind of etchings, cancer of the ear and fungus of the toe. And we were just enthralled. So we would read these books and then run over and diagnose the doll babies. And then Paula was in charge of treating them. So she would bandage them up. Lots of Kleenex was involved. Bandage them up and bandage their heads and take care of them. And this went on until we got, too old for doll babies, and we graduated to Barbies. Barbies of the 60s. They were stiff. Barbies of the 60s, their legs only moved at the hip, and their arms only moved at the shoulder, and their heads just turned from side to side. And they were perpetually on tiptoe, so you could cram them into the stiletto-heeled shoes that they all wore. But we had no time to cram them into shoes. We had no time to play dress-up with the Barbies. What we did is take the Barbies out to my backyard, to the top of the hill behind my house, extend their arms to the full upright position, and launch the Barbies into the air. We played rocket Barbies. They'd go up, 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 and then gravity would take its toll. Even on Barbies, gravity gets you in the end, and down, 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 down. They'd smash at the bottom of the hill. Limbs would go flying. Sometimes a head would pop off. That was really exciting. And then the ambulance came into play. We'd scoop up the Barbie. We'd do a little triage right there on the site. Sometimes you could pop the arm right back into the socket or pop the leg back on. Other times we had to scoop the Barbie up, take them up to the top of the hill where we had a sort of portable MASH unit. And Paula, again, was in charge of kind of bandaging up the Barbies, but we'd had a significant increase in medical technology at this time. Scotch tape. So we'd tape the Barbies' legs and arms back on, we'd tape their heads back on, we'd tape bandages around them. And most of the Barbies had a couple of rocket trips down the hill, and then some had to be retired. So they would just be propped up on the Kleenex box and watch the rest of the Barbies as they made their descent. Now that was 40 years ago. And Paula and I are still friends. She's still in Pennsylvania, I'm in Oregon, but we visit a lot. And sometimes we visit because it's just fun, because our families like each other. And sometimes we visit because we need each other. Like when my mother was dealing with late-stage emphysema, and I spent a lot of time at Oregon Health Sciences University Hospital, keeping vigil with Mom. Paula would fly back, and she walked the halls of that hospital with me. We knew every coffee bar that there was to be visited. And just a couple of months ago, when my husband came out of the hospital after some surgery for cancer, Paula came to visit. She brought him home from the hospital with me, and she really helped with the dressing and the drain that we were dealing with and changing the bandages. And Paula was in a prime position to do so, because in January, she graduated from nursing school. And as we both move into our 50th year, I'm telling stories for a living, and Paula is going to start work as a charge nurse at the county nursing home in York County where she's living. It amazes me that our paths have brought us each to this point, but I sort of think that if you were to go back in my backyard and talk to those two little girls with their Barbies in their hands and say to them, you know, you're not going to believe it. Let me give you a fast forward. Here's where you're going to be in 40 years. Can you believe it? I think they'd just look at us and say, sure. Thank you.